What's up, V Squad? It is your boy JB, and I am here today, you guys, with another review for Reasonable Doubt. You guys, this is season three. I believe it's season three, episode number 4. You guys, this episode was titled "Friend or Foe." Tell me how you guys thought about what you guys thought about this episode down in the comment section or in the premiere of this video. Now, before we go ahead and get into it, if you guys are watching this video or any other video on the channel and you guys aren't subscribed yet, need you guys to do me a solid favor and stop taking me out on this date and having me pay for it at the end of it. You guys know the routine. You can do me that favor by liking the video, subscribing to the channel, and also by turning on your post notifications. And with that out of the way, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into Reasonable Doubt, shall we? All right, you guys. So this episode, it opens up, and so we see as Jax and Daniel went over to Ozzy's house, right? So they went over to Ozzy's house to have a conversation with Kristen. And basically, Jax wants to know, how did Ozzy get those drugs the night that he OD'd? And so Kristen said that she doesn't know, and that Ozzy was doing so well. And then Kristen was also saying that Ozzy hadn't done anything in years because he had him, and even he had Wendy, who was a big help to him, and they did a great job of keeping drugs away from him. So she did also reveal, well, she was the one that gave him the drugs that night, right? And so she also did comply with Jax and told Jax who his previous supplier was. And so Jax and Daniel left. And Jax told Daniel, like, follow up on that lead right there, because she feels that there is something that Kristen is lying about, right? So then after that, we see Bill the scammer. So Bill is at Kendra's house, right? Bill showed up to Kendra's house with flowers, and he's telling Kendra, that, he's there to celebrate their anniversary. She's like, our anniversary was yesterday. He's like, and I brought your favorite flowers. She was like, those are not my favorite flowers. Nice try. So then he was basically letting her know, like, hey, you heard about that Ozzy Edwards case? And she was like, yeah, I've heard about it. She's like, yeah, so I'm on that case, and I'm second chair. So if this case goes well, then that means that, I'm in the running to becoming partner, right? And she was like, okay, so what does that mean for me? So he lets her know, hey, so jury selection, it starts on Monday, and I do have the kids over the weekend, but since I do have the kids on the weekend and jury selection starts Monday, I was wondering if maybe I could drop them off a little bit early to you. And Kendra was like, absolutely not. You cannot do that. Your time is your time. So when you have them is when you have them. So you're gonna have to figure out what to do. Kind of like how I'm having to figure out what I'm gonna do tonight for dinner and all this kind of stuff, right? So you figure it out. So then after that, we see Lewis. So Lewis got a text message from somebody. Now remember, in the last episode, he hired that black guy who was a coder. Well, according to this urgent text message, it was the coder is doing a wrong code. So we see as Lewis called the guy in, right? And the dude tells him, I forgot what his name is. I have it in my notes later. But he tells him, like, yeah, I think it's C++. So yeah, I don't really know C++ like that. I know C something else, right? And I got a friend that's teaching me how to do C++, but it's a lot harder than what I thought it was. And I was like, wait a minute. So you don't know how to do this, and this is part of your job. So did you lie when you got the position? Like, wouldn't it be grounds for termination? But neither here nor there. Now we see as Jax, she's telling the team about, her and Daniel talking to Kristen and about the dealer who may have brought Ozzy the drugs, right? But we also found out that the night that Wendy, was unalived, there was a drifter in the same area. But at this point, the police refused to investigate this. And I was like, that's so interesting. So because she was unalive in Ozzy's house with his own weapon, you guys automatically assume it's him. But then there are reports of a drifter going into people's homes, and you guys don't look into that. That's a little weird to me. A little weird to me, but hey, tell me what you guys think. So then after that, they Jax now wants to basically show that Ozzy had no motive, right? Because Wendy is someone that he attributes to his sobriety and also the fact that he and Wendy wanted to spend the rest of their lives together. So she wants people to look at that, and also she wants to let people know what Ozzy has been through in his life, so that way people are empathetic and sympathetic towards Ozzy. So then after that, we see as Jax walked out because Crystal was like, okay, well, I believe you, but how are we going to convince other people to believe you, right? So she went to accounting and got this woman by the name of Susan. So she asked Susan, like, what do you know about Ozzy Edwards? So Susan knows Ozzy from my cousin and them, but then she also knows about this stuff with Wendy. So this has tainted her view of him. So Jack's like, so what if I told you that he was abused? And she was like, what kind of abuse? She said, actual. And so now she's starting to soften up to him. And she said, what if I told you because of that, he got into drugs? And so now the woman is like, oh my God, my daughter and I would go to church every Sunday. We're Episcopalian, we're Episcopal. And so she would pray for him. And so that's what Jack's like, okay, now we got it. And so Bill the scammer was like, so are we looking for Christian white women? She was like, no, not just Christian white women, women who are Christian in itself, right? So then we see as Jax got a text message from Lewis. And so she got a text from Lewis saying that Naima wasn't at home. So we see Jax as she got home, got all sexy. I was like, oh, come on, Jax, you looking good. And mind you, they playing Sexy Red in the background. I said, not sexy. Get it sexy. Get it sexy. Get it sexy. Boy, you know this ass super fat. Don't ask me why I know that song, you guys. Please don't. But so they got home, they did the do, and Naima came home. And so Jax was trying to talk to Naima, and Naima went straight to her room and just slammed the door in Jax's face. And I was like, oh shit. So Jax went to Naima's door and was like, Naima, first of all, you don't walk by and ignore us. And secondly, we don't slam doors in this house. I said, Naima knows something. And so Naima opened the door with that onesie and she was like, my dad fathered Tony's baby. I said, ooh, she knows the truth about Tony. Oh no, what are we gonna do? So then we see as they are sitting in front of the kids and they are finally letting them know about Jaden. And both Jax and Lewis are saying that they weren't trying to keep it from the kids. And I was like, y'all weren't trying to keep it from the kids, but y'all weren't freely telling these kids, right? So Naima feels away because she was like, Dad, I gave you the opportunity to tell me the truth and you lied in my face. And so Naima is pissed off at them. She asked them, why does it feel like you two like ruining everything? I was like, yikes, Jax. Like, what do y'all say now? All right, you guys. So next up, we see Bill the scammer and Jax as they are having a conversation with Ozzy about the abuse, right? And Ozzy is very reluctant to come forward and say that he was abused by someone. And he also isn't sure and said that, so he's not really sure about this, right? So Jack says to him that at this point, we don't have a lot of time and we have no other options, right? So Jax asks as Bill the scammer to step out as she has a conversation with Ozzy. And you guys remember her situation with her stepfather. So this is her relating to Ozzy and essentially telling Ozzy that by doing this, you take back the power that that person had over you. And so he asked her, like, did that person still have power over you? And she said, no. It took her some time to come to realize, come to grips with that and come to a realization of that. And Then after that, he asked Jax like, so if I were to do this, then what's next? And she said that they'll make sure that the information only comes out in court. And then she suggested to him that you should probably tell your parents first. So then we get to the first day of jury selection. And so the first day of jury selection, we see as Jax and Chad, they're interviewing potential jurors, right? And Jax made notice that Chad is trying to get rid of any black men in the jury pool, right? So what Jax wants is she wants to keep the compassionate women. And I was like, okay. So then we see as Jax, Autumn, Sally, and Chanel, they were all hanging out, right? So Autumn revealed to Chanel, not to Chanel, she revealed to all of them that she's pregnant. So then they had a conversation about Spencer and Naima finding out about this whole situation with Tony. And Jax is like, for her, this just really hurts her knowing that Naima is so hurt and so upset about this, right? So then we see as Autumn had to go to the bathroom, and so Chanel went with her, leaving Jax and Sally at the table, right? So Sally, Sally also called out Jax. Well, no, she didn't call out Jax. At this point, what happened is, sorry, you guys, I got an email from work. I know I'm still working at the time. So what happened is Sally told Jax that she and Chris have been having angry sex, right? So Jax asked her, "Girl, how do you know you're the only person he's having sex with?" And so Sally got offended by that, and she was like, "Excuse you?" So, oh, that's what this is because you and Lewis are in a good place. Can't nobody else be happy. I was like, girl, that man was so pissed off at you for putting the house up last year. And yeah, I mean, y'all definitely had some angry sex. Like y'all definitely had angry sex. But I'm kind of on Jackson's side. And so she said, you know what? You've always been a hater since high school. And Jack's like, and you've been a hoe since high school. When Jack told the woman she's been a hoe since high school, I cracked up. I hollered. Like that took me all the way out, right? So then we see as Jax, she saw Lewis as he was at home still. It was 10 o'clock at night and he was still working, right? So Lewis is working to basically clean up the mistake of this coder, right? And Jax was basically like, because he wants to give him a hand up. And I'm like, I get giving people a hand up, and especially I can folk, right? But some of them, you can't do that for, right? And that's essentially what Jax is saying to him because she was like, I'm pretty sure you're the only one that's up at 10 o'clock at night, not him, right? So then she also told him that she's thinking about telling the kids about her dad. But Lewis, however, is very reluctant with this because Lewis feels like when it comes down to it, he wants for Jax to only introduce Eddie if she feels that Eddie is the man she wants him to be. And just like, okay, I can agree with that, right? Now we see as Ozzy sat down with his mom and his dad to, let him know about the abuse. And so his mom asked him, like, who was it? She's like, it was that bitch in makeup. And what I will say is I had a sneaky suspicion who this person was that abused Ozzy, but I wasn't for sure about it. But we'll pick back up on that later, right? So Ozzy didn't want to tell his mama. And so his dad is like, well, you gonna tell us. And I was like, y'all give him some space. And that's what Jack said to him. Like, you guys have to respect how much information Ozzy is willing to share with you guys at this particular moment. You guys can't force it. So, they said, well, why come you didn't tell us? And he was like, he was just confused. And he didn't know, that was why he didn't tell them. And he didn't, know if they would believe him. And they were like, we would always believe you. We believe you. We would have believed you then, and we believe you now. And I liked hearing that from them. I liked hearing it from them. And so, you guys, with this suspect list, this is an interesting suspect list because I'm gonna get to the suspect list in a little bit, but very interesting. So then we see Naima and Spencer as, they are with that damn Mama Lou, right? So the doorbell rang and it was Eddie. I was like, Eddie, sir, what are you doing here? So Eddie came over to meet the grandchildren. I was like, oh my God, Lou, why did you let him in the door? I was so pissed off at Mama Lou. Like Jax's mom is something else. So he let them know I'm your mom's dad, and so he was like the same dad that left my mama when she was a girl. He was like, yeah, I was a drug addict and all this kind of stuff, right? So then he asked them at one point because Naima was teaching Mama Lou how to do a TikTok dance, and then Eddie went over there and learned with her, right? So he asked them how long before their parents come home, and Naima was like, "We don't know, we don't care." And so then Eddie bribed them with $40, 20 a piece. I was like, "Are you serious?" Moving on. Now we see Lewis. So Lewis and one of the bosses, they are talking about letting Sam go because Sam has a non-compete closure that they weren't aware of. So then they called Sam into the office, and essentially Sam threw Lewis under the bus, which kept him his job. I was like, ooh. I honestly thought Lewis was going to get fired in that particular moment, but he didn't. Now, after that, we see as Jack, she got home and Mama Lou was all nervous because she was like, the kids told me about it. The kids told us everything. And Mama Lou's like, what did they tell her? But she's talking about the whole situation with Tony. And she's talking about how she hopes that the kids are able to forgive she and Lewis. And so Mama Lou asked her, well, have you talked to your dad? And she's like, he called me, but I haven't called him back because he's asked me to come to some kind of a performance that he has. And she says, Lewis doesn't necessarily want him to meet the kids until he is stable. And, she also says to her mom, like, I don't want him to use you to get to me. And so her mama felt offended. And a real reason that her mama felt offended is because of the fact, girl, that her father has already met these damn kids. Now, moving on, we see Daniel. So Daniel and Kristen, they're hanging out with each other. And at this point, you can definitely see that Daniel and Kristen like each other. They were having a conversation with each other. And, she asked him, like, did that lead help you? And he said, it actually was very helpful because although the guy that you told me about didn't sell him Ozzy any drugs, he did let me know that when it comes to Ozzy getting high, Ozzy never gets high alone. So that helps them, right? So then Kristen also told him that, before all this stuff, Ozzy was a different person. And Ozzy also used to write in his journal. And I was like, interesting. So Ozzy saw Kristen and Daniel, and he broke that up because he could see that something was going on there. And he was like, "That's like, I don't want you to go do anything to him when he's on my legal team, right?" So then the next day we see as Ozzy is in court with Jax and with you know, Bill the Scammer, who in my notes I refer to him as BTS, right? So Daniel went back to the house. He called Kristen up. He was like, "Yo, Kristen, where are you? Like, I left my journal here and it's very important. I need this for your brother's case, right?" And she's like, "Well, he keeps a spare key under a fake plant on the right side of the door." So he found it. Now, the real reason that Daniel went back is because Daniel went to go through Ozzy's journals that were mentioned by Kristen just a few minutes ago, right? Now, we finally see as Lewis put his foot down with Sam, and I was happy for it, right? So then we get to this jury selection. So jury selection, it appears to be complete. And then we see as Lewis, he's home and he is pissed off, going off about this whole situation with Sam, right? And so the kids came in with a whole different mindset. They're happy to see their mom and daddy. They happy that they cooked, and they let them know that, hey, we met Eddie when Mama Lou was here. And so Jackson Lewis went off to the bedroom to have a conversation. Lewis is pissed. However, she's like, okay, they met him. There's nothing we can do about it now. So then we see as Bill the Scammer, he went to drop his kids off. He, told his Kendra what he's done for the kids, and he brought food to help out. I was like, oh, that's nice, Bill the Scammer. Still don't really trust you, but that was nice, right? So we see as Lewis went to go meet up with Eddie. basically to tell Eddie to stay gone, to leave and stay gone. But these two had a bit of a pissing match with each other, right? And what I will say is Eddie kind of put Lewis in his place. I'm like, damn, Lewis, he sunned the fuck out. You came to sun him, but he sunned you. Yikes. So the end of the episode, you guys, we get Daniel. So Daniel called Jax to let him know that he read some of Ozzy's journals, and he found out who this person is that abused Ozzy. So the person went over there the night, I think the night of Wendy, and he was so committed to Wendy that he sent this person away. Well, I think that's what he did. But come to find out, the person who abused Ozzy is none other than his agent, Monica, and Monica is portrayed by Brandy. I was like, oh my god, I wasn't expect. Well, no, yes, I was. I kind of figured it was. I kind of figured it was her. I figured it was her. But let me know what you guys thought about this episode. Overall, it was a really good episode. I enjoyed it. Be sure to like the video, you guys. Subscribe to the channel, turn on your post notifications, and also share the video. And until next time, do me a solid favor, you guys. Stay safe. Take care of yourselves. Wash your hands. Be blessed. And I will catch you guys in the next video. Bye, guys.